Peter, I know we've spoken a number of times, but it keeps happening, and there's been all sorts of media coverage over recent days about rising temperatures in the reef, the hottest oceans for 400 years, the reef is going to die. We keep hearing this sort of alarmism, yet from your accounts, the reef is in rude health.
3 years in a row, the last 3 years in a row, we've had more coral than any of the previous 35 years. It's never been better, despite supposedly 4 or 5 catastrophic bleaching events which wiped out the coral. They're saying that the coral that's bounced back is actually the species that is most susceptible to hot water bleaching. And then just last week, we got a bit of extra data showing that the actual water temperature of the Great Barrier Reef in the last 50 years is about the same as it was in the 1700s. So it's all wonderful news, but what it shows is the scientific institutions have got it completely wrong and are completely untrustworthy.
Yeah, we've got that graph that you set us up there now. You're saying, of course, the water is warm compared to 100 years ago, 200 years ago, but the same temperature as it was, 400 years ago. This is the context that's so often missing from any of this debate, because I know you and I know others who support your work. You all care about the reef. You know the reef. You want the reef to thrive. And you're telling us that it's in good condition and it can actually handle changes in ocean temperature that do occur over time.
Exactly. But the scandal is when that graph came out, it was actually buried in the paper, and all the publicity about that paper was talking about this 400-year high, which was about a different graph altogether. So what we're seeing here is again and again the untrustworthiness of a lot of the pronunciations from the scientific institutions. But this is actually affecting industries, especially up here in North Queensland, the agricultural industry, the fishing industry. It's not just Great Barrier Reef science, which is often wrong. It's right across the board. But this record amounts of coral, which is a different graph that we've had in the last 3 years, is a wonderful opportunity to try to get some, auditing of the scientific institutions. And what's got to happen is that the industries, especially in Queensland, have got to get together and make sure that the whole world, and especially Australia, knows that we're at record high coral and that we need to audit reef science institutions. You don't get record high coral every year. We've got it for the last 3 years effectively, and it should be made use of, but actually we're not making use of it because actually most people don't even know that the reef is in such good state because of the media.
Yeah, and it's trouble. It's global, this bad news, so it's actually killing off tourism. People need to know. I think the reef has become like polar bears. The climate alarmists have chosen it as their instrument of fear and doom, and therefore it creates a completely wrong impression.
Precisely, and I've actually been looking at some of the statistics on tourism, because when you actually do surveys of tourists, they all believe that, well, the reef is in a pretty poor shape. And when you actually analyse the statistics, we could easily be losing up to $1 billion in tourist revenue because people aren't coming to North Queensland or even necessarily even to Australia because they think the reef is in a terrible shape, when it's actually the opposite. It's actually never been better.
Never been better. Great to hear that, Peter. Thanks so much for joining.